Next up, we have an amazing treat. It's actually not even kidding. For the first time ever, we have them on stage together. I'm talking about the co-founders and co-CEOs of RealT, Jean-Marc and Remy Jacobson. Please come on out.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, please, for those of us in the audience that don't know anything about you guys, please tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Remy Jacobson, co-founder and co-CEO of RealT.
And I'm Jean-Marc Jacobson, also co-founder and co-CEO of RealT. And we're brothers.
Not by choice, partner by choice.
Well, before crypto, I know you guys actually, your story started in real estate, is that right?
That's right. We've been in real estate, property management, development, and ownership for the last, oh wow, we look old, so we could say 25 years.
25 years for him, but I started in 1991, 92. So we come from real estate. We're Canadians originally. We grew our portfolio, our real estate portfolio, residential, in Canada. First Quebec, then all over Canada, then the US as well. So we know real estate really well because we've been in it for many, many decades.
One of the things you also know really well is Bitcoin. Tell us that story.
We got lucky enough in 2011, mid-2011, to find a thing called Bitcoin. Somebody wanted to sell us a weapon on a game for Bitcoin. So we looked at what it is. We read the white paper, and we went down the rabbit hole. We started mining.
Well, we tried to mine with our laptop. It didn't work already, end of 2011. So we bought a graphic card. And with that, we mined. We sold the first Bitcoins on Mt. Gox then. Bitcoin around then was around $1, something like that. And we went and bought, with that, we sold more, and we bought more graphic cards. And we ended up being one among the first industrial miners in the US with 7 data centers full of graphic cards. It was a good time. We also created the first Bitcoin embassy in the world in Montreal, where we dedicated one of our properties to the Bitcoin community. Now that sounds great, but if you go back in 2013, that was Bitcoin embassy was created in 2013 in Montreal, Bitcoin had a bad reputation then. So we come from the world of real estate where bankers love you to all of a sudden doing something where that bankers hate and regulators hate and everybody hate because it's supposed to be for, criminals. That's how it was viewed. So part of the mission of the Bitcoin embassy was to send delegations to the Senate in Canada, to the authorities, to the regulatory authorities. We used to say, regulation is sexy. We want regulators to understand and to regulate us so that entrepreneurs can build on solid foundations. And that is key, even today when we speak about tokenization. When you don't know what you're doing on a legal point of view, anything you build can crumble from one day to the next. Legal certainty is one of the foundations of a good company. Unfortunately, even today, we don't have that across the world. But it is getting there. And there's a lot of effort of regulators around the world. So yes, we do come from Bitcoin.
Yeah. You guys have, I also know, invested very heavily with RealT and in general, in compliance. We're going to get back to that. But real estate professionals, Bitcoin OGs, obviously the worlds had to merge. What is it now, 5, 6 years ago?
We launched RealT. The concept of RealT came to life in 2018, November 2018. We incorporated in February 2019. And since then, RealT has been growing. We created the industry of real estate tokenization in 2019.
So the concept of real estate tokenization was prior to even 2018. We really wanted to tokenize. When we were at the Bitcoin embassy, let me say it this way, we very quickly talking to the other blockchainers, Bitcoiners, no matter how you want to call them, that the Bitcoin, the currency, the digital cash, is just an application of the blockchain technology, and not necessarily the most interesting one or the most difficult one. So of course, Remy and I wanted to put real estate on blockchain. Well, the technology was not ready then because, simply put, Bitcoin blockchain is a nightmare to code. Then came Ethereum. Ethereum allowed to do smart contracts and made it possible to tokenize. But what's the legals? Okay, I tokenize and I say it represents a part of a building or a building. What's the legal foundation? What happens if there's a problem? Who says that it is a part of a property or the property itself? And in 2018, Remy got a call from one of our lawyers who said, actually, you can now tokenize some LLCs. There are ways to do it. And that was the beginning of RealT. So the concept really emerged in 2018. And on Valentine's Day in February 2019, RealT was created.
Fast forward 5 years, here we are talking about tokenization and asking everyone, are you ready for tokenized finance? Which is a very exciting and very promising place.
And I can tell you, just seeing the room here and speaking to so many people is very gratifying. Because when we started, I can tell you that people were like, why? Why are you going to talk? What is it first? And then why? Why bother? Why invent a solution to something that works very well? What's the point? So the point is, if you look at the statistics today, RealT sold, tokenized and sold on blockchain over $110 million and counting of real estate.
Representing 1,900 units across the US.
And 760 properties. So there are units and properties, some are single family, others are multi-families. So when we started doing that, and we have also, wait a second, the KPIs are not finished. 110 million of real estate, we distributed it directly to the wallets of the token holders in 5 years.
Let me clarify this for the room. What we mean by distributed to the wallet is your rental income or your dividends are paid directly to your non-custodial wallet on a weekly basis. You do not need to wait for it to wire, it's dropped directly into your wallet.
So, and we distributed like that, about $17 million. So when we started doing all this, the idea was how to do it. Today, the land registry is not on blockchain. And even the 2 land registries that are on blockchain, they don't tokenize it. So the only way to do it was through an LLC at first, which means security. It means immediately that your security token, and all the people at the time that were trying to say, we're going to do real estate, but we're not a security token, we are data token, we are utility token, we decided to take the bull by the horn and say, we are security, we will speak to security lawyers and see how to do it.
And it turned out, we are a security.
Absolutely. And it was the difficult way to do it, but the right way to do it. US has a very good corporate system and legal system that allows you to grow. There are exemptions, there are restrictions, there are ways to do it. You can do this, but not that, or to a certain limit. So the investment in legals was important at first. But that allowed us to grow, take our first, get our first investors in the US and in Europe, accredited in the US only. Accredited only in the US, I mean. And since we are European as well.
You're saying our first investors,
yes.
That was in 2019. Today,
2019, yeah.
Today we have a strong community of about 80,000 people following us, 20,000 active wallet, participated in 4 or plus offering.
So when Remy says active token holders or active wallet, means a wallet that has at least 1 token in it, and not one that bought and sold and is no longer active. So we have 18,000 clients, token holders. They're mostly token holders, not clients. And they're active and growing every month.
It's honestly incredible to have seen the infrastructure that you've developed very quickly in the last 5 years. Folks, there are very few companies that have issued hundreds of tokens that just like RealT has. Very few that, I don't think any, to be honest, that have done 17 million in dividends, rental dividends to their token holders. One of the things that I think has made you so successful is your focus on DeFi. Now, I think it's clear to everybody that there is a real focus on compliance and regulation. It's something we cannot avoid. But yet, as a RealT token holder, I can go get a loan very easily. I can go peer-to-peer trading. Tell us more about the DeFi infrastructure that you have unlocked you know?
So, between my brother and I, you're
big.
going to know this. I'm compared to the spa. I'm the jacuzzi, he's the cold plunge. So I'm starting to warm up the room. What is DeFi? What is integration into DeFi? And really, what is a real estate without a mortgage? It's not as fun. Your yield is not the same. You don't have the same return. When you go get a mortgage at a bank today, you need to show your credit score, you need to show your papers, you need to go get a colonoscopy, and then you might be okay to get a loan. You do it in DeFi, you're master of your own destiny. Your token is what you put as collateral. Within 2 clicks, you could borrow 50% of the value of your token on a platform called the RMM without putting a mortgage on the property. So you don't pay your loan on an algorithmic loan lending platform, you get liquidated on your token, not the property. So every investor is completely siloed out and could do whatever they want with their token.
So that means that the real estate that RealT bought, by and large, is not mortgaged. The mortgage is done at the token level, if you want to. If you don't want to use leverage, you don't have to. But Remy speaks about it like it's the great solution.
Here comes the cold plunge.
Then comes the regulatory. So every time we try to integrate tokenization security tokens with regulators, today it's not easy at all. And it's not for lack of willingness from the regulators. I've spoken to quite a few of them in Europe, actually. We're trying very hard to develop in Europe to do some European tokenization. And first of all, they said, we cannot jump on any new technology. We have to see if it's going to mature or not. And then the concept of DeFi, and mostly the concept of custody, self-custody is a big issue. We have a kind of secondary market called the YAM. Okay, you and me for YAM. But there too it works, but it's extremely limited, and it's extremely, there are conditions that we have to respect. For instance, it's peer-to-peer exchange. We are not allowed to have a match bargain engine. We cannot, because then we become an active secondary market, and that's regulated, and we're not allowed to have one, period, not even in Europe. In order to allow all this to happen within DeFi, the regulators around the world are reacting differently. The idea is to have lawyers and to invest into lawyers and see what can be done, file for licenses when you need to get them, or use exemptions at first, grow, and see what can happen. In Europe, and I'm speaking a lot about Europe because it's what I've been working on for the past year, there is this sandbox called the Régime Pilote, which gives exemptions on a project-by-project basis, allowing you to do stuff that you're not allowed to do normally. For instance, in Europe, most countries in Europe, and it's a European initiative, I might add, in Europe, you can tokenize bonds and securities without too much of a problem. What you cannot do is animate a secondary market on DLT, on blockchain. You're not allowed. And nobody is today, not even institutionals. Why? Because they don't know how to regulate. Everybody's going to have their own secondary market. How are they going to control it? So they created a Régime Pilote, the sandbox, which allows on a project-by-project basis, companies that apply, and the application is difficult and long and painful, to have exemptions in order for a number of years to be able to do certain things to complete their project. During that time, there's an exchange with the regulator. They learn how to do it. And within 3 years or 6 years, depends, they will either kill it or issue specific guidelines. And that is the way that the business is growing today. And that's what RealT is doing. One of the issues is that because of these things, sometimes you believe that your regulation foundation, your legal foundation is strong, and then 6 months later, something changes. Tax issues are another one across the jurisdictions. So all this is evolving and sometimes can result in complexities that are not easy to address. People ask me at first, why tokenize, we said?
Why tokenize? It's a good question. If you are to get 5% to invest with you in a real estate deal, don't tokenize. Don't use a blockchain. Use a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, keep your distribution. Formula works great, it's been here for 50 years. If you want to give a life to the token, if you want to give a life of its own to your token and to your property in a way, then blockchain makes sense.
And even then, you get into some other issues. It's like people were asking us, Remy and I, but why fix something that works well? We have REITs. We have, in Europe, there are listed real estate listed funds. You have SCPIs or whatever the jurisdiction calls for. Why bother tokenizing? So what are the advantages of tokenizing? We used to say almost instant settlement. You don't have to go wait for a day. You can do the exchange quickly. Quite frankly, we were not speaking to an institutional category. It interested nobody.
But why tokenize? On Monday, you buy your property. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you collect the income accrues. On Friday, you sell it. You sleep on your cash, and you start again on Monday.
Liquidity. Liquidity is a good point. Is it a really very powerful point? REITs are liquid. You can buy a REIT and sell it.
Despite all of this, call it, restrictions or, having to deal with it, you guys have been extremely successful in getting a community to love RealT products, right? They actually drop them usually every week. I think there's a few happening today. Don't know if they've already happened, but if they did, they're gone. I've seen these tokens get sold in minutes and hours, very, very quickly, and it's usually distributed, right? You guys actually...
So
let's go back
to what Herwig said. When we launched RealT, we did our first property in Detroit, Michigan, a $63,000 home. It took us 6 months to sell it. 6 months. It was painful. We were looking at each other. We're like, well, nobody wants this. Might as well just keep the house. And then traction started. Today, we put a $63,000 property out. It will be gone approximately in
45 seconds. And $1 million property will take around 15 minutes to 20 minutes. That's what, so there is a demand for it. People like to be able to have a fraction. Fractionalization is one of the advantages of tokenization, but you have fractionalization as well in REITs and other such tools. You have internationalization. You do a Reg S, all of a sudden, your token, your market is the rest of the world. Internationalization, of course, you have the KYC, they are blacklisted, there are compliance things, OFAC lists and stuff like that, but let's not go into that. The fact is that your market becomes the rest of the world. And that is very powerful because
how many
RealT...
countries today?
Exactly. RealT today has, what did we say, close to 20,000 token holders, not yet there, but almost, and in 154 different countries. Try to sell a property like that with your lawyer to 154 different nationals. So that is one of the big advantages of tokenization. But then, depending on the volume you have in a jurisdiction, you need to be compliant with that jurisdiction as well.
Technology is scalable, legal is not.
Precisely. And that's very important to remember. Technology is scalable worldwide, it's very easy. The legals you have to repeat for every jurisdiction. Now, the advantage of the US is huge, and it's more or less homogenized across. Europe is trying to do the same. That's it. The rest is extremely fragmented country by country. So as long as you just have 1 or 2 token holders, nobody cares. The minute you go above, like sometimes it's 100 clients, sometimes it's 150, sometimes it's above 1 million, or certain thresholds that they define, you better talk to the regulators and have your visa there and start working there. RealT has been doing that with about, well, all of Europe. So we've been talking about that for a long time and hiring lawyers there, and in 5 other jurisdictions currently.
Including Panama as one of the ones I know you guys are tokenizing, right?
We tokenized 2 properties in Panama. Panama has a big advantage because we wanted a new market. We wanted Latin America, and Panama has the US dollars. So we don't need to deal with another stablecoin which don't exist yet in pesos.
And it doesn't have the same inflation problems that most Latin Americans or Central American countries have because of the US dollar. However, we saw Panama as a great place for resorts. The beach, it's booming, it's on the gray list. We completely missed the boat on the fact that there's a certain stigma attached to the word Panama. So the first time we put it up for sale, I can tell you we did not sell in 45 seconds or in 15 minutes at all. People just didn't want to touch it because of the name Panama. The resort was beautiful, property was great, the yield was decent. it had marked all the boxes. It checked all the boxes. But the stigma of Panama made it so that it was not popular. So you understood that we are dealing very much with retail investors. And when we started, our purpose was to tokenize real assets, any type of real assets, but we started with what we know the best, real estate. It took longer than we thought to be able to move on to other assets. I can tell you that because of the legals, and we want to do it in a compliant way, and the technology also changes a lot.
Sure does. And in fact, you just said the magic words. You guys are going beyond real estate. And in fact, I'm going to fanboy out a little bit here. In fact, you did the RWA Holdings token sale very recently. Folks, it sold out so quickly. It was a 5 million target, I believe, 1 million per minute for the first 3 minutes, and then the remaining amount in an hour. I know that's not what you were trying to hit, but I still am pretty impressed by it. So clearly, you know, maybe tell us a little bit first about the RWA holding structure. This is a sort of an indirect investment into RealT, the technology company. But to your point about expansion, you did this in Switzerland,
correct,
not in America. So please tell us.
Jean-Marc.
So Switzerland is one of the first jurisdictions in the world to create a legal environment for tokenization. They actually recognize 5 different types of tokens, including securities, currency, governance, utilities, and another. And they have a good system around it. And they also have very advantageous Swiss laws that our compliance officer had a hard time accepting at first, but it's legal there. So what happened? Yeah, compliance officer's right there. So for instance, what does Switzerland allow? So we created an SPV. This SPV called RWA Holdings is a shareholder of RealT, which is a US company. But the company itself can tokenize its shares. That's perfectly fine. And it can distribute these shares very easily across the rest of the world, except the US. And the advantage is what? First, there's no threshold, meaning you don't have the problem of a maximum amount of token holders, or be careful, you're not allowed to go over 100,000 or 1 million or 5 million within one country. There's no such threshold for Switzerland. The target country might have it, so keep that in mind. Second, if the token doesn't vote, and if the token doesn't have dividends, then it can be exchanged peer-to-peer or even on secondary markets without KYCs. At the emission, when you sell the first sale, when you issue the token, a very strong KYC is necessary. More stringent than most US laws. You have to have a video, you have to touch your ear, you have to do stuff like that. But as long as you don't require to collect dividends or vote, then you can sell your token to whoever you want. The minute you want to have your dividends, the Swiss say this triggers a tax event. We need to know who you are because there's withholding, there are taxes, there's this. If you want to vote for a Swiss company, no. There's no anonymous voting. We know who you are at every single, we must know who you are. You cannot govern a Swiss company if we don't know who you are. But it allowed to raise a lot of money very quickly. It was easy to tokenize. And a lot of DeFi companies are basing themselves in Switzerland today.
When Jean-Marc said we had very painful and heavy legal bills, he was not joking.
So I can help with a lot of questions with other jurisdictions as well. Believe me. So yes, the RW Holdings was a good model, but we also tokenized other things because our technology then has been used as white label for other Swiss companies that do, for instance, Bitcoin mining in containers around the world. We're looking at tokenizing in a certain way cars and other assets. So this is happening this year normally. And we're also looking at tokenizing media and how would you characterize what you do?
I think what you're getting is you might be tokenizing STM. Is that right?
Well, we'll see, but yeah, that's something that...
It sounds sexy.
It sounds very, very
I
seducing.
think we should do it. I think we should do it. And in fact, to even go a little further, we don't have time to go fully into it, but you guys are actually even decentralizing the real token ecosystem, the technology itself. I don't know if you want to spend 30 seconds on explaining that.
Sure.
But
We have launched last week, we have airdropped the Genesis block of the REG token. And no, it's not for regulation. It's for real token ecosystem governance. That will allow the community to choose what they want to tokenize, with whom they want to work. At the end of the vote, we'll deploy a marketplace for whomever is voted in by the community. As one of the example of what the REG will do, but of course it will have much more utilities and activities within the decentralized finance world and tokenization space. Combining liquidity, having different function into it. I don't want to get too much into the detail. The white paper is available. It's a page turner of 86 page turners. Enjoy it. I'll be happy to send it.
But it goes beyond that. We mentioned the RMM, the lending platform. This too is based on the Aave model, for those that know Aave. It's the biggest lending platform in DeFi for utility tokens or currency tokens. So we took their technology, which is open source. We worked with them for 9 months to apply it to securities, spoke with lawyers in quite a few jurisdictions to see what we could do, what were the restrictions. There are many. But we were able to include those restrictions in the smart contracts and in the on the platforms controls themselves. So then we could launch it, and it's not a company that lends money. It's entirely decentralized. You can be a lender or a borrower or both. You can lend and borrow, and that is, there's no like entity or a bank that comes and says, I'll finance so much.
You could be the borrower, the lender. You could be the insurer, the insuree.
Remy is jumping the gun here. So another technology that can come, when we speak about tokenization, what can we do? We had launched a proof of concept on insurance, rental income insurance. Okay. It's pretty cool. You have a yield, let's say, of 7% or 8%. As long as you pay a premium, you kill your yield from 7 to 6 or 8 to 6, whatever, every week or every month. You're guaranteed that income. And this insurance is decentralized as well. You can be the insurer, you can be the insuree, you can take advantage, and then you can even mingle protocols. If you are insured, then instead of going on the RMM and having a loan to value of only 50% or 60%, since your income is insured, you can go to 70 or 80%. Unfortunately, we did the POC, but the legals are not finished yet. So it was just a proof of concept. We showed that it worked, and then we're not doing it yet. The insurance industry is also complex, and it needs some, the regulation, the lawyers didn't finish giving us.
It's really to show what the future holds.
Exactly.
What is tokenization? How powerful is it? And where will different regulation allow it to go? Because really, with tokenization, blockchain, and DeFi, the sky is the limit on what we could do. Things that used to be a dream that you used to see in the fiction movies is becoming reality.
You've made it a reality with your RWA protocol, hundreds of tokens, tens of thousands of token holders, millions of distributions, hundreds of millions in token sales, globally across multiple jurisdictions, and now you are going to go after all RWAs, not just real estate, and they're going to decentralize the whole thing. That's like a mic
with
drop.
the right partners. Because with the right partners, when we're going to do other assets, it's with the right partners. We know real estate, so we could do it. But at the end of the day, we need other partners to do it.
So if you want to tap into this amazing ecosystem, come talk to Remy, come talk to Jean-Marc. They're here today together in person. Usually they divide and conquer. So thank you everybody for listening, and look out for an announcement.
Thank you very much.